Hi all, I'm Phoenix. I made the Phoenix Flavor modding guide. I'm behind two more Wabberjack lists, for one for Skyrim SE, one for Fallout 4. And a few weeks ago, I saw the podcast that I believe a YouTuber called Murloc King did with Dylan Perry, who is the author of Ultimate Skyrim. And I basically figured, we can do this thing. We can do this ourselves, and we can sort of expand this mod list curator thing, talking to each other a bit, and maybe touch up on some subjects that normally don't get discussed very much with users. So obviously I can't just talk to myself, so I invited somebody here. Hi, Tate.
Hi, my name is Tate. I am the curator of the Kizal mod list on Wowjack, and I've also made a handful of mods for Skyrim. And I'm here to talk about some interesting topics with Phoenix.
Yeah, so the thing that we both get associated with the most is a very unfortunate term. We are both ostensibly mod list curators of Vanilla Plus mod lists, and over time we have both come to regret associating ourselves with that term. Myself more than Tate, because he did not really use that term for very long, but I have, and I think in some places the Phoenix Flavor is still advertised as a Vanilla Plus mod list. And our lists have been compared a lot in the past, and the question that's come up a lot is, Phoenix Flavor is V+, and Kizal is V+, so where's the difference? And very often the answer was, they're basically the same thing. And they're so not.
And they're not.
So why wouldn't you start with explaining what you understand as, well, V+?
Okay, so the term Vanilla Plus is supposed to mean that, you are wanting to stay within the vanilla aesthetic, the vanilla balance, and you don't want it to feel like Skyrim is changing as a game on a fundamental level, right?
Mm.
And you want to make sure that any content you add feels like it fits into the game. And really, my rule of thumb is if I can tell it's from a mod, I don't like it. Now, that's not exactly true because I have a few mods that are very have some rough edges, but I do take a few compromises in various places. Most notably is the capital expansion mods, which I think are fantastic, but they are really rough around the edges and they need cleaning up. That's something I need to do personally, but generally, I like to make sure that everything is consistent, everything feels like it's Skyrim, everything doesn't feel like it's fundamentally changing what we all love about the game.
Right. Yeah. And that's essentially what I've always had in my descriptions and definitions as well. I think my original wording was something along the lines of change the game without adding to it.
And that's
And
the big difference between our two mod lists,
yeah,
because you are not somebody that wants to add content mods to Phoenix Flavor. If you add content mods, they will be in the add-on.
exactly.
Whereas I do have content mods.
Yeah, and that is something that always sort of falls under the wagon when people talk about the difference between our lists, because that is a major difference.
Mhm.
You have new followers. You have Lawbringer, don't you? The mod where you can conquer bandit forts and stuff.
Off the top of my head, the big content mods I have is, yes, Lawbringer. I've worked closely with Epic Crab in the past to expand on it. I actually made one for Worm's Tooth, an expansion for Worm's Tooth, and I also
Yeah.
do use Worm's Tooth. I use Lucian, and then there's several mods that I have made that I use that are what you would consider content mods. I use my Corky follower mod, which is
Ladies.
definitely a content mod. Then a few other things like Civil War Deserters, which changes a few bandit locations to be populated with deserters, which I did ask you about earlier because I didn't really consider that a content mod, but you do consider it a content mod.
Yes. Yeah. It's a new mechanic. So this is something that especially my users and fellow mod authors often get confused about, what I consider a content mod and what I don't. And it's caused some confusion in the past when I didn't include Pilgrim in TPF, and people were like, "What? It's a Simon Rim mod. TPF is a Simon Rim list. You have to include Pilgrim. What are you doing?" And I was like, "No, this is something I consider new mechanics, And new mechanics and new locations, that's new content for me.
It's Pilgrim is absolutely new mechanics.
Yeah, but it's I can, on the other hand, I can absolutely understand why people then get confused, because the line is really blurry at times between.
Like, again, with the Civil War Deserters thing, you consider Civil War Deserters to be new mechanics, new content, and you don't consider the Ancient War Stalra mod to be new mechanics, new content, even though I'm like the reverse, because I don't really consider Deserters to be new content, but I definitely consider Stalrim to be new content. But after you explained it, I understand where you're coming from.
That was a bit of a fake out though, because the Ancient North Star mod, which adds a new type of weapons to the game, by my definition, it is new content. But I have a balancing explanation for why these are really, really good for late game loot balancing. So it's a bit of a fake out, to be quite honest.
It's new content, but you have a reason for keeping it in because you don't want Ebony to be as common.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think the biggest difference between us has always been visuals versus content. Because as I understand it, Kaiser does not have very much visual mods. But I'm not sure if I'm right about that.
Kizal has a lot of visual mods, but the visual mods in Kizal are always very focused around making sure Skyrim doesn't look different, it just looks better. And it's also focused around on making sure I can maintain 60 FPS on my machine in particular.
Which is very helpful to many users. We know that most users appreciate good performance.
Yes, however, while I can maintain 60 FPS on my machine, there are several people that try and join up with their 1050s and then they cry because they only get 30 FPS, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that.
True.
Here, you can try these other mod lists. They're more suitable for lower end machines. But yeah, I I want the game to look better because Skyrim is 10 years old and it does look a bit dated. But I don't want it to look different, and I'm not actually that big of a the visuals. I want it to look nice, but I'm not like that big of a visuals guy. I'm not one that really likes looking at textures all day. I'm one that likes looking at new content.
I think that's where we are fundamentally different, and that's where TPF always kind of strayed from its concept. Because I've just spent the entire afternoon comparing road textures. It's obsessive. It's insane, but that's why TPF has so much visual stuff.
Yeah. See, I would never do that. I'd never compare road textures all day. I'm not that I won't look at textures, because I do look at textures and visual mods a lot, but not to the extent that you do, and I don't care to the extent that you do.
And it's not necessary to the extent that I do. It's seriously not necessary to get a pretty setup. It's just obsession on my part. It's something I genuinely enjoy. It's
Yeah.
Oh man.
I have lots of people that recommend me visuals and help me with visuals, and if I didn't have those people that wanted to help me out there, I probably wouldn't have the kind of visual setup I have now, because I would have never taken all the time to set it up without the help that I got.
Lord knows we have some heated debates about visuals on the Webberjack server as well.
Oh yes. Heated debates. Some people on the Webberjack servers care a lot more about visuals than I do.
Yes, even more than I do, to be quite
Yes.
fair. But then I have this happy moment when today I finally fixed the snow load, because T4 uploaded specific textures, and this stuff is just such a tiny thing.
Now, the LOD is something I have obsessed about before, to the point where I had to throw my hands up and say, okay, it's fine.
Yes, this is my reaction. This has been my reaction to Snowload, and I have it fixed, and I can show you how, and it's brilliant, and it works.
Okay, yes, because snow does look rather terrible from a distance. It looks kind of smeary and painted on.
The problem is the nose DDS. The problem is the nose DDS texture, which makes sure that your other terrain looks like, well, actually grassy, rough terrain, and then snow looks fucking awful. But I'm going off on it. See, this is what I mean when I say I'm into visuals.
Yeah. So let's talk about, you have used the V+ term since the inception of Phoenix Flavor, is that correct?
Pretty much, I think, yeah. I can't.
Okay.
I've been thinking about when it started coming up, because I must have picked it up instantly when the term was invented.
I'm not sure where the term came from. I think it might have been from Anai originally.
Might be, yeah.
I think he might have been describing his second wave of gameplay mods after the original Anai REM, think after he got those initial mods down, he wanted to go back to like a more vanilla setup, so he started describing those as vanilla plus. I think that's where the term came from, but I'm not actually sure.
Actually, no. Actually, that was, I believe, the other way around already, because Simon was already working on what we would call V plus Mars,
Mhm.
early iterations of mysticism. I believe that was his first mod, if I remember correctly.
Now,
And then,
I
mhm,
sorry,
no worries.
continue.
I believe that was when Ina started to pick the term up as well, and then made it into V++, which is a whole other beast. We can talk about that later,
Yeah.
probably.
Now, I know the term didn't originate with Simon, if that's what you're thinking.
Right. Okay.
So, because I've known and talked with Simon since before he was a mod author, and I know that he originally was describing his mods as V plus, but he didn't pick up the term because he later threw the term away because he didn't like it.
Understandable.
So I think it might have been an I, but I can't really say for sure. But that's besides the point. You've been describing Phoenix Flavor as V plus since the beginning,
Yes.
and what about the term at the time did you like that you wanted to use it for?
When I started to do this very close to vanilla sort of style, it was very new. We've had this V plus wave over the past 3 years, I believe. And it was a way to distinguish myself from the existing lists and setups, which were at the time primarily Lexis and then Ultimate Skyrim for Classic Skyrim. And those were
Yeah,
these huge, heavy lists with Requiem and Survival and Legacy of the Dragonborn, and I was doing something completely different with a very different approach. To be quite fair, at the time I wasn't quite sure what I was going for, but things sort of figured themselves out over time. And then that was the best thing I could think of at the time that described what I was doing in relation to other lists. When I was asked, what does Phoenix Flavor do? And I could say it's the Vanilla Plus. It's like Skyrim, but just a bit better, And it worked
yeah,
then, but it no longer
and
does.
you know what? When I joined WebJack, and I joined WebJack's a few months before you did, about January 2020, I think,
Yeah.
around there. When I joined WebJack, my list was the first list that did not include Legacy of the Dragonborn.
Sacrilege.
Yeah, yeah. So I know what you're saying, that a lot of the lists back then were heavy and not really quote unquote V plus, and that does make sense describing your list that way. So you could have something to describe how it's different, because it is pretty different. I think there's a good possibility Phoenix Flavor was the first real uh, light mod list that didn't rely on all these other content mods, which is probably why it's so popular and still around today, because you were on the first.
Yeah, I think it's the same reason for why Lexi's Legacy of the Dragonborn is still so popular. She and I, we were both sort of the first in our respective areas, and then that kind of stuck around. But otherwise, I mean, nowadays we have we have still TPF. Well, TPF is currently undergoing some major
Major changes.
rebranding. But we still have Kaiser. We have, I mean,
Legend of the
Quest.
Frost,
Yes, Legend of the
which is even
Frost.
more vanilla than Phoenix Flavor.
Legend of the Frost completely destroyed any sort of legitimacy that the B plus term had for me. It was sort of the final nail in the coffin.
They're two very different lists, but they're
Yes.
both like vanilla lists, quote unquote vanilla lists.
Yeah. I mean,
I
what are we gonna say? Vanilla half plus?
half plus.
It's it's just it doesn't make any sense anymore. And then I got asked, what the hell is Legends of the Frost in relation to Phoenix Flavor? And is it just visuals? Is it just graphics and no gameplay? And I was like, no, it's about the same as TPF as far as visuals and gameplay are balanced out. It's 50-50, but it's just less. And people are like, TPF is already V plus. What is less than V plus? Can I just install vanilla game and play that? Is that Legends of the Frost? No, not quite. But that's, I think that's a sense that's the damage that the B plus term has sort of caused, because then you have that, and there's very little wiggling room around that, where you can have something new and define that as something new, because people are just going to come, is this V plus? no, it's not V+. But what is it then? And then you don't know because it's not easily describable. And then you have
Giving yourself a label like this is very damaging because then okay, so you give it a label, right? And then it's a label that everybody's familiar with, and then they all have their own ideas of what V plus is. As we just talked about, you and I have different ideas of what V
yes.
plus looks like. So if I like V plus and I think I have a good idea of V plus, and then I go download the tuning flavor and I play it, and I'm like, this isn't V plus, this isn't what I want.
This completely changes the visuals. What is this? This is not
Yeah.
Skyrim.
So there was a Reddit thread from last year, right? And it was a Reddit thread that Simon read, and this is the Reddit thread that made him dislike the term V+. Basically, the question was, what do you consider V+? That was the Reddit thread. And the answer's wildly different. There were people that like me that was like, oh, I want all the things to feel like it's from the same game. I don't want it to deviate too much. People like you that says, oh, I think it should not add any new content, but just improve the existing mechanics. And there's people that said, I think it should just be visuals.
Yeah.
Those are three very different ideas.
There were also people who said it should just be essentials. No gameplay changes, no graphic changes, just fixes, basically what Legends of the Frost is, which is another team altogether. And it just, that basically that shows very well how completely useless the term has become.
When I made Kizal initially, I did describe it as V+. I described it for about a month, maybe a month and a half, right?
Yeah.
I stopped using it at the same time Simon did because Simon showed me this Reddit thread and I said, this is useless. It's just literally the only thing it's doing is opening me up for criticism that I wouldn't otherwise have. So after I dropped V+, I wasn't using any term to really describe my list, but I still wanted to kind of get across what it was, so I started using the term simple, right?
Right.
And I don't want simple to turn into like V+ or anything, but I don't think it can because it's a word that already has a meaning.
Yes.
And I have gotten some questions like, well, you have 800 mods. How is this simple? And I was like, well, all those mods are graphics mods. All those mods change like one person's weapon and nothing else. You can't really quantify how big a mod list is by looking at the number of mods you've installed or even the number of ESPs you've installed.
Yes, absolutely.
But what I mean when I say simple is like it's simple to install because I've done lots to try and make Kizal literally just one click and then you have a modded Skyrim. And it's simple that my goal is that if you've never played Skyrim before, you can play it and not have issues.
And it just works.
Yeah, it just works.
Yeah.
And I had something on his mod page, and there's lots of things I don't like about an IRM, but there is one thing he said that I really agree with, and it's something along the lines of, if your mod needs a manual, or if your mod requires the user to keep checking the mod page, it's probably not a good mod. And that's something that I've always kind of had in my head when I'm making Kizal. I'm like, if I add this, is this something that requires documentation that my users would not otherwise have because they don't need to go to the mod page because I don't want that. I don't want them to play Skyrim and nothing else.
That is a really good game design guideline. That is, yeah, I agree with that. That is definitely valuable. I should really keep that in mind more often because TPF has in the past, at times at least, been using a gameplay guide, and I've referred people back to the gameplay guide, and that's really not that would never happen with Kaiser, and I think you've got it right in that respect, that users should not have to check things up.
Yeah, I have lots of people coming to Kizal that's never played Skyrim before, and that's what I like to see because I want to make sure that my mod list is going to appeal to people that have not played Skyrim, and if they play it, it just feels like they're playing another game, and it doesn't feel like they're playing like something that's modded with a ton of extra things that they don't understand because it's not actually explained in the game that well. When I first made...
Sorry.
No, when I first made Kizal, I had my wife stream it, right?
Yeah.
And there's about 30 episodes of her streaming it, and one of the reasons I wanted her to stream it was A, I wanted her to play Skyrim because I think she would enjoy it, and B, she'd never played Skyrim before. So it was kind of like a good litmus test to see how Kizal worked for somebody that was not familiar with the game.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one example that I can think of that is this article about Wabberjack. It was in some gaming magazine website about a year ago or so. And it was mostly about, if I remember correctly, it was about Lexus Load and TPF. and the guy's resume was basically he didn't find Nexus particularly approachable, because he suddenly had all these new mechanics, obviously Frostfall and survival, and then he didn't understand why he was suddenly dying. And yeah, with Frostfall you kind of have to go check the mod page first and educate yourself a bit on what it means to get wet and cold and freezing in Skyrim with Frostfall, and how to protect yourself. And the guy was basically, he eventually preferred TPF because it was closer to the game itself and didn't require you to check any mod pages and didn't require you to know how this mod's mechanics exactly function. And that maybe is a problem with certain mods, that they are not as good as introducing you to them as certain vanilla game mechanics are. Not that they are so complex that you need much of an introduction. It's just smashing your items together and crafting and such.
So, as somebody that has modded manually before, people that have modded manually before, it's not really an issue that they realize, because when you mod manually, you go and you look at the mod page, you read it carefully, you understand it, you download it, you play it. And you've already read the mod page, so you pretty much know what you're expecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have that kind of luxury with a Wabjack mod list, or even like a guide. I mean, in the guide you will be reading the mod page, but it's not quite the same because you're just following instructions, you're trying to make sure you get everything right, so you're probably not going to be able to see every single page, understand every single thing that's happening.
People are linked to the files page. They click download and install. They do not read the mod page.
Oh, they don't even read the mod page. Okay, great. But that just solidifies the point.
Yeah.
And earlier when I told you about if your mod requires a documentation page, then it's not a good mod. That's something I've personally wanted to do for my own game even before I was a mod list author, but now it's just even more of a relevant thing to try and achieve. But, there's some people that want to add a bunch of new mechanics that don't have very much support in the vanilla game, or don't have very much way of communicating to the player in the vanilla game. That's fine, because that's how they want to play the game. Not how I want to play the game, but it's how they want to play the game. But you can't really have that kind of mods in a mod list or guide unless you want to keep answering people's questions.
True. Yeah. It's kind of, at some points it's kind of a bit of a tightrope to walk, because I sometimes feel like I can't really appreciate how a user might approach, for example, TPF without any previous knowledge of mods in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because then questions come up that strike me as very basic at first and kind of confusing, because this is obvious, duh. And then when you start talking to people, you realize that you understand some very basic things about mods, about how mods fundamentally function, that especially most Wabjack users are simply missing, and that completely changes the way they experience the modded setup. In that way, it would be really helpful to have more complete vanilla players.
Yeah. There's a project one of the Wabjack people are doing, or not a Wabjack like author, but one of the people that's associated with the project, where they're trying to add a documentation page, where you can actually like refer to some stuff that the author can write down and have it in the game. So you can like pull it up in the help menu, pull it up in like an MCM, and have like a bunch of documentation right in the game.
Ooh.
I like that. I think that's a good idea. I don't want to rely on it too much, but I do think it's a good idea, instead of having to keep relaying them to external pages if they want to learn more about the mod list.
Yeah. There are some mods that could really benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to sound off topic, but it is on topic, I swear. A few years ago, I worked at the library, my local library, as a digital literacy trainer. I would teach people how to use their phones, how to use their computers, stuff like that. Normally, my clientele were older, right?
Mm.
I had a lady come in once, and what she needed something printed off, right? And I said, okay, well, I sat her down on the computer. I said, okay, well, go here, and then you can press the print button here, and you'll get all your things. And she just kind of looked at me. I was like, okay, something wrong? What's wrong? And she's like, how do I use this? I was like, well, then I showed her, like, how you print it. And she's like, no, you don't understand. How do I use this? And then she picks up the mouse and shows it to me. And I was like, oh, I don't even know how to... I didn't say this, but I thought in my head, I don't even know how to explain how to use a mouse.
Yeah. Oh God.
because it's
Yeah.
second nature to me.
Oh dear. Oh yeah, yeah. I think we have similar situations when people open Mod Organizer for the first time, and
Yeah.
I get questions like, "Do I have to install Mod Organizer to install TPF Wabberjack?" And I'm like, the entire point of TPF Wabberjack is to install Mod Organizer.
Hmm.
There's such a fundamental misunderstanding, and sometimes which is nobody's fault really. Most users that we get are very inexperienced, um, as far as mods are concerned. Most users, I mean, let's be honest, we don't really have a good resource right now to get users into modding, to explain some basics, some foundations.
We
And
don't. The best resource to get somebody into modding is probably a manual, or yeah, a manual guide like the Phoenix flavor. But even the Phoenix flavor isn't perfect for teaching somebody how to mod.
it's not going to teach you how to select mods. It's not going to teach you how to do conflict resolution. It's not going to
Nope.
teach you how to decide which files to hide. It's not going to teach you how to
Heck,
compare stuff.
Phoenix 2 years ago, before I made Keyzal, or while I was making Keyzal, I guess, late 2019, I had never opened Xedit in my life. I had no idea what conflict resolution even meant.
Wow, you've come a long
And
way.
yes, I have. When I submitted Keyzal to Wabberjack, originally I had no conflict resolution patches, and they told me I needed some conflict resolution patches, and I didn't know what they meant.
Right.
Luckily, by that time, I was pretty good friends with Simon, and I was pretty good friends with a fellow named Victor,
Hmm.
both of which are mod authors, and both of which are pretty experienced with that sort of thing. So they were
Very
actually able to
helpful.
help me. They're very, very helpful and able to help teach me how to use Xedit and teach me eventually how to use the creation kit. But without their help, I would have been very confused because the Tome of Xedit, their big documentation, is very helpful and has lots of good information in it, but not for someone that's never used Xedit before.
Yep. Yeah. 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 That was my experience too.
Hmm.
I mean,
If I go to
it's
it now, it'll be helpful, but I won't be helpful when I don't know how to even what the program even does, really.
yeah. That's something. I think it doesn't really explain what plugins are. I think it might have an explanation on form IDs. I'm not quite sure, but those are really basic things that you kind of need to understand before you think about creating mod groups or
Yeah,
delta patching
absolutely.
something.
One of the first things I learned to do, because this is something I really wanted, is I used to be really into survival mode, the CC one,
Yeah.
and survival mode has this lovely thing where you can add patchless support to your mods that add new clothing, add new
Injected
beverages,
keywords,
add
right?
yeah, just inject it has injected keywords in update.esm, and it
Mm-hmm.
also has magic effects in update.esm. All you have to do, the only thing you have to do is you need to add the keyword to your armor, or you need to add the magic effect to your hood, and that's it. However, 99% of mod authors don't do that,
Yep. True.
which is very frustrating to me. But one of the first things I learned in Xedit was I wanted to know how to make my own survival mode patches because I wanted to be able to add a bunch of survival mode, a bunch of things that wouldn't conflict with survival mode, and not very many people make patches for it. Learned how
Mm-hmm.
to do that. It's very easy. But having to try and comprehend the Xedit interface was like 90% of the problem.
Yep. 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 I mean, I'm still learning things. I think it was very recent that I learned you can control click on records to directly get to them. That was
Yes,
mind blowing. It was such revelation. I was
about
manually typing the form ID before that.
oh my god, about 5 months, 6 months into me learning how to use Xedit and using Xedit regularly, I did that on accident. I was like, "What the hell did I just do?" That was magical.
This is not the record I was working on. Hold up. Yeah, it's just it's just tough for most people. It's I think most of us are self-taught largely,
Mm,
and
probably.
then the ones who've really come far just had help. I would never have gotten TPF to the point that it is now without a huge amount of help from various
Yeah,
different people over the years.
and it's good we have a community that's willing to help us out so much, help out the fellow members so much.
Absolutely, yeah. We have.
So once you learn Xedit, right? That's great. You have taken a big step and you can do your own conflict resolution patches, but not everything can be done in Xedit, right? Lots of things need to be done in the creation kit.
Yeah.
And that's the next issue when it comes to learning how to mod and learning how to make mods if you're interested in that. is a lot of people will use Xedit as a crutch because they're too scared to learn the creation kit, and there just
Yeah.
isn't that great a resource to learn the creation kit because Bethesda has their own tutorials on how to use it, but they only really cover like level design.
Mm. I believe there are like some streams by Dark Fox that people like to use, but there's
Yes,
nothing comprehensive. There's nothing up to date in one spot.
Dark Fox has tutorials that are good for learning one thing in particular and nothing else.
So
He,
basically, like Bethesda.
yeah. So, except he has one for like everything, right? So, oh,
Right.
I need to learn how to make a quest, so I can learn how to make this quest right here in particular, and then I learn some basics about how to make quests in general. However, if I don't know how to use the creation kit, that's not going to help me.
Oh, I see. Right.
It's it's like when you watch a Dark Fox video, you're gonna learn a few things, but it's more that you're watching how to do it and you can copy him and you can do what he just did. But it's harder for you to actually like build on the knowledge and keep learning it and actually able to use the creation kit proficiently.
Right, that's a problem, of course. I mean, this is exactly where I'm stuck, to be quite honest. People tend to overestimate my own modding abilities. I am utterly helpless with the creation kit. Uh,
If
I'm
you need help with the creation kit, you can just ask me.
I'm going to annoy you more than I have. I'm going to annoy Victor more than I have in the past.
Please do. I am no expert, but I have made a few different mods in the creation kit, so I know how several of the records work. There's several I don't know how they work. I have no clue how perks work. I have very little idea of how magic effects work, but most other things I can probably figure out.
I mean, these are things that Simon is absolutely expert at.
And
So
I bug him when I need help with perks.
understandable. He has the most experience. I mean, with probably with the exception of Inai. But I was having it was a dumb issue. It was just a bunch of stupid rocks blocking the path, and I couldn't click on them with more informative console. And they were not unloaded load textures. They just existed, and
They're just rocks that didn't want to you didn't want to click on.
it's annoying. They were blocking the way. I wanted to disable them, and I couldn't get the bloody form ID, so I had to go into the creation kit. And I tried. Trust me, I tried, but it didn't load the half the things. It didn't load the bloody rocks. It loaded the rocks in the distance, but I didn't need the rocks in the distance. I needed the bloody rocks blocking the path in front of me, and it just didn't work. And I got so fed up with it, and then I sort of rage quit and decided to do something else. I still have to fix that though. I'm definitely going to bug you about this at some point.
Please do. I really like when people get more knowledge about these kind of tools because I want to see people make their own content.
Yeah, I mean,
So
we
more
do
people making more content is good.
true, and especially our
So
particular kind of friends,
yeah,
which we would not call V plus mods, but
you know, I was going to mention this earlier, and I guess I should mention it now since we're talking about this. I don't just get V plus when it comes to my mod list. I also get V plus when it comes to my mods.
yeah, I would call them V plus by
Yeah,
my previous definition. Yeah.
yeah, and it's frustrating because some of my mods maybe
Yes.
they are V plus, some of them maybe they're not, and people usually just define me as a V plus modder. I've been defined in the same breath as Simon and Delta as like the V plus Trinity or whatever, and
Oh, you should count parapets among that.
yeah, probably
Or
Parapets make fantastic mods.
yes, absolutely.
But the point is that while people might describe me as V plus, I don't consider myself V plus, and I don't really want to be confined to those kind of mods. I'm just gonna make basically I just make what I want to make.
Yeah.
I'm not a V plus modder. I just want to make what I want to make, and people describing me as a V plus modder is slightly annoying because maybe one day I'll post content that somebody doesn't consider V plus, and they're surprised like, I thought you
Oh,
were a V plus modder.
I am disappointed forever in you. Yeah, that
Hmm.
I can see that happen. I mean, I
Like
can.
right now, I'm working on a large expansion on the Sid Empire Company with like some quests and a new world space that might not be considered V plus by some people.
It doesn't sound particularly V plus in my mind. It,
Does it? But I want to make it. This would be cool.
no, no. You can never do anything else other than V plus. We need to establish that.
Oh, okay.
The thing is,
You're gonna take my license away, aren't you?
yeah.
My V plus license.
You're going to get branded, and you can never upload anything else ever again.
Oh dear, that means I have to go to Lover's Lab. I want to do
Oh
that.
god, oh god. Well, we have spotted sort of confirmation that the V Plus label is pretty much official now.
Yeah, on collections.
On collections. I mean, we can openly talk about collections now since they've done the announcements.
Have you signed up for the beta?
I have signed up. I have been invited. I am on the server, and
Oh,
I
neat.
am waiting for things to happen. I am very curious.
I was also invited. I was messaged by Biscuit, and I gave him some information. I'm waiting to hear back.
Were
Not on
you?
the server yet.
Did you sign up last week?
I signed up the day it was available.
Yeah, me too. I sat around for a couple hours thinking to myself, oh, they're gonna message me before I have to sign up there. And they never did, and then my ego said, okay, never mind, we're not that great. what do I expect? But
Anyway,
I'm really
collections.
curious. Yeah,
Collections have a V plus category
Yes.
for their mod lists.
Yes. I saw that in the preview video they did, and they have like 6 categories, I think, and one of them is V plus.
I really don't know what I'm going to do about that because I want to bring Kizal to collections in some form. Probably not the form it is on Wabberjack, but maybe some truncated form. And when I do that, I'm going to have to I'm going to have to click that V plus label, aren't I?
Yes.
Because like I don't want to, but it's a category and it's probably one people are going to look for.
It's definitely the one people are going to expect Kaiser under. I mean, they also have total overhaul, but yeah, that doesn't really fit the description, does it?
Yeah. So yeah, that's slightly annoying.
I mean, we pretty much have lost at this point. V Plus is here to stay. We are not going to get the term out of the heads and the minds of users, and it's going to be what TPF and Kaiser continue to be defined as. It's just going to be.
That's fine. I mean, I think the more I don't use the term, it's better. Like, I don't want to use the term myself, but if people want to use the term in relationship to my mod pack or my mod list, hey, see, I just said mod pack. That term's not going away either.
That's exactly the other example for terms that are never going to vanish, but are never going to lose their connotation either, I think.
I have trained my brain to say mod list 90% of the time, but sometimes mod pack still comes out. But yeah, people can keep calling the lists V plus, whatever. I'm not going to refer it as such myself, but it's not going to go away. Believe me, I tried. I tried to make it so I discourage people from using the term in relation to Kizal on my server. It was more obnoxious than anything. It didn't change anything. It was just annoying.
It's like our corrections, what we did at the start on Wabberjack, reminding people, no, don't call this a mod pack, it's a mod list.
That's exactly what I did.
Never worked.
It was, as I said, more annoying than anything.
Yeah, it's not gonna work, and we've pretty much given up on TPF as well. On Wabberjack, I very rarely see those corrections.
Yeah. I also don't correct mod pack anymore. It's fine. People at this point, Wabjack is established enough that people know that we're not just uploading mods into a zip file and having people download them.
Yes, it definitely. I think the message got through.
Yeah.
Although on the other hand, I do find it telling that the Nexus also chose to use a different word with collections. They're also doing a different thing. They're not doing mod packs in the traditional sense, but they also went out of their way to brand this something else.
Yeah, I don't think they've used mod pack at all. They've used collections.
Yeah. And they never would. We'd have Nexus 2.0. The panic.
God, not again. I'm so glad I am not a Fallout mod pack or a Fallout modder right now, because the Fallout 4 Nexus has been ravaged.
Yes. I got off easy with, I think, 3 or 4. It was several of my favorite mods that got taken down, and I'm extremely salty about that.
Really sad. I mean, we can all have a moment of silence for the truth.
Yes, the truth especially. That's the only Skyrim mod, the only one that I'm really, really sad about.
I mean, I lost a few things, but I lost a few things in Kizal. Not a lot, and I don't remember what they were, so that probably means they weren't that important, but I remember the truth.
I know that Mevantizer vanished and took down Morlord Ultimate and Bijin, so that's probably going to have pissed off a lot of people. It would have pissed me off in 2019 when I was using MLU, but no such luck. But yeah, that was one of the very high profile takedowns.
I'm surprised I didn't know that. I thought I would have known that.
I mean, Bijin is not necessarily a V plus mod, is it?
No, but like moral loot, that sounds like something I would have at least heard about in passing.
Yeah, I was very surprised actually as well that this didn't really cause more of an impact. Everybody was
They
sort
were
of
talking about nethers.
yeah, and it's back.
Yeah, it's back.
Everybody talking about Fenderix and Fenderix is back. It's I'm just waiting for Arthmore to come slinking back for his DPs.
For his DPs. Well, you know what? He can't remove mods anymore, so he can't hold the his mods hostage anymore, which is lovely.
It has changed so much for the better in the mod author community as far as the general tone is concerned, civility is concerned. It's
I agree.
huge
And
improvement.
are you part of general mod authors discussion?
Yes.
That server's much nicer now because whenever you left the Nexus, that means you were kicked out of the server.
It's I mean, I've not really checked the Nexus forum GMAT section. That's for anybody listening, that's a restricted section for mod authors only. But the GMAT Discord server, I started reading more in after Nexus happened. That was the time during Nexus. I really love the term, by the way.
Me too. I don't really like it when they put exit at the end of like random events, but this
Yeah,
one really fits.
this one just works.
It does.
At the time there was like I was looking into the server. I heard that there was a great excitement in the GMAT server about the changes and collections and no file deletions, and I checked in and I was like, Jesus Christ, what the hell is going on here? And I went to sleep and I went about my day the next day, and the next night I checked back in and it was the same people having the same conversation 24 hours later, and this went on for 3 days.
GMAD is not a great place. It is full of people that are not properly moderated, and it was not a very nice place to hang out. Now, all those people are gone because they left.
Yes.
Because the thing about GMAD is that you get to join it when you're a mod author, right?
Mhm.
If you somehow get an invite when you're not a mod author, you're restricted to like this one channel you can't type in. Well, when you leave the Nexit, guess what? You're no longer a mod author, so they're kicked out into that one channel they can't type in.
Neat. Yeah, I really love that, and it seems to have worked so well for everybody except for the people who left.
Well, yeah.
And it's not just us Wabbajack folk who profit from that. I mean, we benefit from the no file deletions and that our lists stay up better and longer. But it's just
Yeah.
it feels like everybody just benefited from a better sort of tone of conversation around everybody else on that server.
I know lots of people will probably look at me and relate me to the Wabjack mod list first, but that's not really how I look at myself. So, like, when I say that this is a good idea, it's not just because I have a mod list, but it's more because it's just a good idea. When I look at myself, I consider myself a mod author first that happens to have a mod list.
Yeah.
Most people probably don't look at it that way. That's how I see myself.
It makes sense. You have a lot of high profile mods.
Yeah. And I'm trying to make one right now, but we've ran into a permissions wall, so I don't know if it's going to be made.
God. Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. I've been there.
So kind of went off on a tangent. That's okay. Back to V plus.
Back to V plus.
So okay, so there's V plus branding on the collections, right? So knowing all the things we've talked about V plus so far, when you brand yourself V plus, what kind of expectations do you expect people to have? Like, how do I describe this?
Well, I've pretty
Like,
much I would expect people to expect exactly what I described it as, but the reality is that people come with expectations and ideas of the kind that you listed from that Reddit thread,
yeah,
where you know these wildly different ideas about V plus come in, and then I don't know if it's an issue with V plus comprehending the concept or comprehending the fact that a list has a concept, because the mod suggestions I used to get, I no longer allow mod suggestions at all.
yeah.
Sometimes some
I don't blame
people
you.
that I like suggest stuff to me, and then sometimes it's things that I actually pick. But 99% of the time I got mod suggestions that kind of suggest to me that the person suggesting them did not comprehend V Plus at all, or the
There's
idea behind
I
TPF.
I still have mod suggestions open. I don't get them that often. I don't know why I don't get them more often. Maybe the people don't know about it, but I like it that way. But it's there if people want to suggest something.
Mhm.
Occasionally I get a mod recommendation. I just look at it and say, huh, you don't understand this mod list.
Yeah, that was pretty much like, say, 90% of all the suggestions I got. Hey, this shiny new mod is out. It's called True Directional Movement, and it's really good, and it's got the most mod of a month votes in ages,
Ever.
and it beats Beyond Skyrim Bruma. And are you going to add it to TPF? And I'm like, no.
Well, we don't even have Beyond Skyrim Bruma, so being more than Beyond Skyrim Bruma has no impact on my opinion of this mod. Now, for transparency, I do use True Directional Movement. I'll enjoy it, but it's not a mod for Phoenix Flavor, and I know that.
Yeah, I do believe that it makes sense for you because you are far more you're far more open to new mechanics and to stuff it's genuinely an improvement from all that I've seen.
The main reason I have True Directional Movement is because I have a big optional support for controller users
Right.
and third person, right? And True Directional Movement does add new mechanics, don't get me wrong. It adds like lock on stuff,
Mm.
but it isn't like combat gameplay overhaul, which is not a mod that I use or like, because combat gameplay overhaul does things like make it so you
That's a
can dual
mod?
wield
I thought it was a
greatsword.
meme.
But True Directional Movement doesn't have like those kind of gameplay
Mm.
changes, and the kind of gameplay changes that True Directional Movement does have, I'm okay with because it's not like making two-handed and one-handed like interchangeable.
Mm.
It's just making it a little bit more comfortable for people to play in third person, and that's what I am all about. Like the lock on, you can use it in first person. I don't particularly like it in first person, but you can do it if you want. But it's really great in third person when you're trying to play with a gamepad and you just don't have the kind of dexterity that you have with a mouse.
Yeah. See, here's the other category for mods that get into TPF. It's does Phoenix like them? And
Does Phoenix like them?
I play exclusively in first person, so TDM never really appealed to me,
I
and that
understand that.
was pretty much the primary reason why I haven't even installed it. And I just looked at it and went, nope, not for me. But that's
I
yeah.
I I play. This is what I do in first person. When I'm on my keyboard and my mouse at my computer, I play in first person all the time, right?
Mm.
But I play in my living room fairly often, and when I'm in my living room, I play on a gamepad. When I'm on a gamepad, I play in third person. Why? I don't know. I just do.
I mean, there there are so many console games that are just far more pleasant to play in third person because you can see more, you can see your movement better. And
Hmm.
you're often further away from the screen, so third person often makes more sense. I get that, and I started to play Skyrim a lot with gamepad myself, just leaning back and uh,
It is nice to sit on the couch instead of being like straight
absolutely,
up at your desk.
yeah. And I'm kind of the whole TPF redesign I'm going through right now is absolutely going to have two direction movement. It's absolutely going to have third person stuff because I need a change. The whole thing is
Cool,
because I need a change, and
cool.
I'm really, really curious to try out all these new things that over the years I looked at and went not for TPF, and TPF is all I did modding related. And
Out of curiosity, this big update for TPF.
hmm,
Um, so it's still going to be core, like no content, but then you're going to also have the big add-on, right?
it depends. Um,
Depends.
I've had I've had a poll today on the Discord server, and the poll pretty much did not go as expected, but it went as I had hoped it might go. If I bring this up right now, I was asking, whether people want a pure TPF profile, so just the essential stuff, the essential things, some visuals, some gameplay mods. What TPF always was. If they
Yeah.
just want that, and then the expanded one with more content, or if they just want one profile with more content. and no pure TPF content profile in addition to that. And it was overwhelmingly in favor of just a single profile. So just TPF and content, no I can't say the words. no V plus profile, alright? It's still the best word I have to describe what I do.
Which is really frustrating.
Yes.
Sometimes I will actually refer to something as V plus because I don't know how else to describe it, and it annoys me.
It does, and I with Legends of the Frost being a thing, it doesn't really describe what I'm doing anymore. But
yeah. So this big redesign of Phoenix flavors is because of Legends of the Frost.
Actually, yes, partly. LOTF sort of scratches that super lightweight itch for me. And I've worked on that, and I'm playing that on the side. And the more I do that, the more I feel like, but I want to try out a few things. I want to try out. I actually want to play Worm's Tooth for once. I really, really, really want to play with all your other mods because I absolutely love what you do, and I love the concepts you have. And I genuinely hate that I can't put them into TPF with the concept that it's always had. Same goes for many other mods.
It was really funny. At the beginning we said TPF and Keyzol are not similar, but it after this conversation it might become similar. If you're adding these new content mods, they may line up more, but then the conversation kind of becomes, well, Legend of the Frost is V+, well, Keyzol's V+, well, the Phoenix Flavor is V+. What's up?
Well, I think realistically speaking, we're gonna have, if we talk about simplicity, because simplicity is, I think, a better descriptive. That's the word that you picked up to describe Keyzol, and I think it's the closest to the truth, you know.
It helps that it's an actual word that has a definition.
It does. It really does. And that doesn't get warped every time, you know, by Reddit user A has a different definition to Reddit user B, and then mod author C has a completely different idea.
It's not perfect because you still kind of run into the same issues where somebody's like, well, this doesn't look simple. You have 800 mods.
Well, always get that.
It's different. It's not just about the amount of mods. It's just about, I want this to be a simple experience, even though there's lots of mods. I want you to go into it and understand it without having, documentation again.
If I could have a single miracle for the general modding scene, it wouldn't be to delete the V+ term. It would be to delete people's obsession with numbers. Numbers mean fuck all when talking about mods. They mean nothing. The amount of plugins you have, it means nothing. You can have all your patches in a single CRP, in a single config resolution patch at the bottom, or you can have 100 or 200 separate small patches. And
out of curiosity, how many do I have? Let's find out.
Okay.
I have.
Oh no, this is. Hold on, let me just find my TPF setup.
Oh, I have to do math. Hold on. I hate math.
Math is difficult.
Math is difficult. Okay, so 433 58. I have 105 conflict resolution patches.
Good grief!
Because I keep every single edit I make, I keep in a separate patch. Or every single edit I make between just two mods I make in a separate patch. If I need to edit like a conflict resolution patch to a conflict resolution patch, I need to make a third conflict resolution patch. I do all this because it's easier. Well, I do all this because I used to have one conflict resolution patch, and I needed to remove a mod from it, and it became absolute hell to try and work through what the conflict resolution patch actually did. So after that, I said, okay, every single edit I'm going to have in a separate patch. So if I need to remove a mod, I just need to remove like a few ESPs, and that's it.
Apparently, the TPF one is about 1.7 megabytes in size, which is pretty big for a plugin.
That's pretty big for an ESP.
And I'm running into the same problem, which is pretty much why I'm redoing config resolution and load order in TPFX now. I'm going to do separate patches.
Yeah, because you remove a bunch of mods and now you have no idea what your conflict resolution patch actually does.
I couldn't use it now because it has so many missing masters, and it just gets
that's
so
really
annoying.
Unfortunate.
But I think the bigger problem is actually not removing mods. Well, it is removing mods, but it's not the initial removal, because I've had this happen multiple times now, where I removed a mod, I cleaned out the related records with report master script in escalated,
Mhm.
deleted those records, clean master, done. Yeah, no, sometimes you have leftovers that are obviously, they're not master related, they're not dependents. And then I've had several instances, several bugs that just happened because parts of an older mod, I think it was Reliquary with Myth, the artifact overhaul by Titan Spain, that I'd removed
Mhm.
and not fully removed in some instances, and then a script was missing. Because that wasn't forwarded anymore, because it was, before that, it was overwritten by ROM, and this happened a bunch of times where people had various issues that were simply due to the fact that I hadn't deleted certain records in the CRP. And on the other hand,
And
the CRP is so large that I can't just check through everything.
like you can miss one thing and it causes an issue. Here's an
Yeah.
example, right? I needed to forward a script to an object, right? A object in the world. So I don't remember exactly what it was, but I'll just use an example. Okay, there's a sword on this table, right? When I pick it up, a script fires, right?
Mhm.
And the script is related to a mod. So at some point, I remove said mod that it was related to the script, right? I remove it, but I forget about it in the conflict resolution patch. Like I remove all the records, and it's no longer mastered to it, but I just forget about it. When I go into the cell with the sword, the game crashes because it tries to call the script that doesn't exist anymore. Because in Xedit, it comes up as like a null error,
Yeah.
and if you don't remove that, it'll crash your game. And it's just really easy to forget things like that.
Yes, it is. Especially if you have a large list, it gets so easy. And it happens all the time. But that's, I think splitting everything up into smaller patches like you were doing should really simplify things.
It's good. It does end you with 105 patches, if for better or worse.
We can have 4,000 something ESLs if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we can
So,
do it.
whatever. It
Well,
really
let's
doesn't matter anymore.
come on, Phoenix. Let's do it. 4,000 mod list. 4,000 ESP mod list.
I don't think, I actually asked the other day on Wabbajack, I don't think anybody's cracked the 2,000 yet. I think, how many? No, Sovereign had 1,600 mods, not plugins, if I remember correctly.
1,600 mods? Jesus.
Yes!
That's a lot.
That is the selling point of Eldenari. It's got everything. It's huge. I mean, it would be so overwhelming. I would instantly get a migraine looking at that and go, nope, 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 nope. I'm going back to my
Uh,
700 mods.
I have 755 and I have 551 plugins, but as we said, that doesn't mean anything.
Absolutely
Because
no.
most of the mods are like, oh, I changed some of these people's clothes around so they look nicer. Oh, this one, oh, I added a new texture to this barrel. Just the barrel though. That's a
Just
whole mod.
this one, the second barrel on the right, in that one room in the corner. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, there's legit. I have a mod that changes the Riekling barrels on Solstheim to use the SMIM model, because if you don't do that, then they have a very, very different look. So you could clearly tell which of the barrels are Rieklings.
Wrinkling
So yes,
barrels by Winking Skeever. Good
mhm,
mod. Yes.
it is a good mod,
Yes.
but it's legit just a mod that changes some barrels around. It's a whole mod. It's an entire mod in your mod list. It's an entire ESP.
I have, like, I mean, there are so many tiny mods in textures alone. I have one mod that changes fishing poles. Yes, fishing poles. Or do you remember the chisels that they use on Salt's Time on that one statue? Yeah, that's a retexture I have. It's one of the 700. They're
Hey,
not
that
either.
that fishing pole mod might be popular come November.
True. That is very true. Yeah, I'm on that note. I'm very curious about what they do with fishing. Very curious
I
indeed.
am curious too, and I'm also really excited about the anniversary update. I'm not excited about what it's going to do to SKSE, but what I am
Yeah,
excited for is that everybody gets Saints and Seducers free, and everybody gets Rig Curios free.
and then you
That is
can assume everybody has it, and yeah, yeah,
that's a big deal, not
yes,
just for mod lists, because I am going well. If there is a good integration mod for Saints and Seducers, I'm going to add it directly to Gizal. As it is right now, it's not that great, but not just for mod lists, but also for mod authors, we can start utilizing all these new assets in our own mods, and it's
true.
fine because everybody has them.
Yeah.
I can use Madness Armor and whatever mod I want now.
Oh man, I didn't think about that. It's
It's
true.
really cool. And if you want to make like Shivering Isles type mods or mods that expand on Sheogorath content, you have a ton of new assets you can just use There's a handful of assets that they added as mod authors, resources, instance seducers, some plants, and a tiny, tiny tile set. But now that Saint Seducers is just free, we can use everything in the ESP. It's gonna be great.
Oh man. And especially since these are all in the original style, these are all freely available. That they're already integrated. They already have static records and such.
They are terribly integrated, but we can use them. And this is 4 entire new armor sets with 4 entire new sets of swords or weapons.
Man, that's really cool.
It's cool. I'm very excited for it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet, but I'm excited for it.
I mean, you have so many Creation Club integration mods already. I would. This is literally the reason why I'm doing CC support in TPFX. I really like the integration mods for them.
That's nice to hear.
But the one thing I wanted to get back to before we start going on the next tangent, was I think with the things that the changes that are coming to TPF or TPFX, the branding is still confused. Bear with me. But I think in the future it's going to mostly look like LOTF is the very close to vanilla one. Then comes Kaisal with obviously Simon Rim gameplay with very tastefully added new content, very close to vanilla, improved but close to vanilla style visuals. You have an EMB similar to the Truth. You have textures that are probably less deviating than mine. I mean, I have Tamrielic textures, which is very different from the vanilla.
For example, Phoenix, I am very, very, very adamant about having yellow roofs and Whiterun.
Yeah, that I think. Do I have yellow roofs in Whiterun?
Probably not, because
I have Skyland. Does Skyland have yellow?
No. Believe me, Phoenix, I have looked for yellow roofs in Whiterun. They do not exist. I use upscaled vanilla textures because there is nobody that's ever done a vanilla or a yellow roof in Whiterun. To my knowledge.
Do I even remember what they look like is the question. Because I remember those shingles. But
hold on. Let's go get a picture of vanilla Skyrim real quick.
I swear I played this game in vanilla 5 years ago.
So here, this is Whiterun.
Oh yes, they were white. They were yellow. They were actually yellow.
Yes, they are yellow.
Oh.
Isn't your mind blown? Nobody textures them yellow.
But why not? It matches the ground texture so well.
It looks so good.
So well. It's also, it's complementary to the faded blue.
Even High Fantasy Whiterun, which I consider to be the closest retexture to Whiterun that looks like vanilla, does not have these roofs. I don't know why.
Lazy skeever. Why?
Why? Bring the yellow roofs back, please.
We want yellow roofs. God damn it.
Anyway.
I don't know. Maybe I should check. Skyrim Realistic Overhaul might.
They do. Skyrim Realistic Overhaul is mainly upscales of vanilla. What I'm using Project Clarities, right. But I know Skyrim Realistic has the yellow roofs because I used to use Skyrim Realistic before Project Clarity existed.
Yep, TPF did too, and now LOTF does, and it's pretty cool. It's much better than I'd remembered actually. What was I saying? Oh yeah, right.
Sorry, we went on a yellow roof tangent.
We have many of those, and I am sure there are many more to come. Now the point I was trying to make at some point was that with the changes TPF is getting, I'm probably going to be situated more securely between, say, Elysium and Kaiser. It's getting more stuff.
You're saying less than Elysium, more than Kizal?
In some ways, yeah. It's probably. I mean, I think the closest thing is going to get closer to Kaiser with content-wise, with the integrations and content stuff that I'm adding. Pretty much is becoming Kaiser. Although I'm not adding Lawbringer. I'm not adding that. I don't like it. It's a new mechanic. I have issues with new mechanics.
That's fine. I understand. I mean, that kind of goes back to the whole thing about needing like a guide to understand it.
Yeah.
I think Lawbringer's fine in that respect, but I can understand having an issue with
Oh,
that.
I say that now, but on the other hand, I'm really burning to try some new things. But anyway, I'm going to
Hey,
figure that out.
try. I suggest you just try Lawbringer.
I mean, I want to try it just because it's by crap.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would not care otherwise.
You know what you should try?
Hmm.
You should try Gladys.
I did, and she didn't talk to me.
She didn't talk to you.
No, but that wasn't an issue with Gladys, actually. I figured out later that other NPCs had the same thing. So I was talking to them, I was selecting the dialogue option, it would play, it would grey out, and then nothing happened.
Well, that's annoying.
That's really annoying, but I didn't really have any sort of. I just pretty
Maybe
much was left.
maybe someday we can make this meme a reality.
Oh yes, I remember that. Oh, Power Pets Sprint. I'm sorry to anybody who can't see this now. It's a great meme, and I love it. Poor Gladys. No, I'm having it. Gladys is absolutely on my list for TPFX, and I'm probably going to figure out the dialogue issue, which was apparently not connected to Gladys at all. And then she's definitely going to be in the update. You can promise her that. I've been made to feel bad by so many people for not including Gladys. It's incredible. It just keeps getting brought up. Phoenix doesn't like dogs.
Oh, I'm so sad. I'm so sad. I'm so sorry.
It's it was just not for TPF.
Now, I am making a new corgi, and it probably won't be in TPF because it's a little wackier.
Oh yeah, Merlin, the fighting doggo, right?
Yeah, he's gonna have magic. It's gonna be a little wacky. It's gonna be a stretch for Kizal. But I'm gonna do it because I want to make him magical and I want to give him a hat.
Is he going to have shouts, but they are barks?
Uh, yes. They might not literally be shouts, but they're gonna work like shouts, and they are gonna be like barks, and then he like breathe fire and such.
Yes. Oh, that's
Right now,
brilliant.
right now the idea is he'll breathe fire, and then if he gets like too far behind, he'll like teleport next to you with like teleport animations. And there's a idea that if he gets behind like 25% health, he'll like make 2 spectral corgis. I don't know if I'm gonna do that or not, but that's an idea.
Spectral. Oh my god. Yes, I am so in for that. Oh man. Yeah, that was. I think you posted a couple previews. I was really
Did
impressed by how well these models were made and the textures.
now
Holy shit.
the Merlin model would not have been possible without my good friend Lidity, who recently contributed that model. Before she made that for me, I had no plans of making Merlin because I wasn't going. I couldn't recolor glass in a way that the glass model in a way that I liked. I tried. Number two, I don't know how to add a tail to her because I'm not going to release Merlin without his tail.
Yeah, that wouldn't be right. But now you have the separate skeleton and model, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's
And
so cool.
been running into some issues making him breathe fire, but I'll figure it out eventually.
A corgi breathing fire is just too good not to make reality.
The idea is he's a Daedra.
like Barbas. I mean, we have precedent for that.
Yeah, we do.
So
He's a Daedra, and after this is over, I'll send you another screenshot of development that I'm keeping secret because it's hilarious.
oh yes, please do. I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of, we should probably try to wrap this thing up. That sort of I think we've been at this for about an hour. We planned on
Yes,
20 minutes. It's not like we expected anything else to happen, if we're honest.
I expected this to last longer than 20 minutes, but whatever. Final thoughts about V plus branding, V plus expectations.
No longer expect TPF to be the V plus that it used to be. In the same vein, completely forget about the V plus thing and start thinking in different terms. And I think ultimately the advice I would give most people would be to stop thinking in concepts and start thinking in more general or more specific terms. Do I want more content? Do I want um, more intense graphics? Can I run this? Do I want Legacy of the Dragonborn? Yes or no? Do I want new quests? Do I want Skyrim to look very different or very close to vanilla? These are the things that are going to find you a list, not whether something is V plus or not. But I don't think
Yeah,
that's going to take root very, very soon.
I would recommend people just read the documentation the mod list curators provide, because that's going to be able to determine if you're going to like the list or not.
Yep.
I provide an overview where I just briefly describe each major section of Keyzal. Phoenix has very extensive documentation that you can probably look at and figure out if you like it or not. And that's better than just going in and being like, hey, what's a V+ list? And people telling you.
Also, check out Dropped Ice Cream on YouTube. He does really, really cool showcase videos. I think he's going to do Kaiser next. I'm not sure.
I
Has
have
he done
never heard of this
Kaiser?
person in my life.
Oh, no, you can't tell me. Hold on, this guy's been posting on the Webjack Discord. He's done showcases of Living Skyrim, Magnum Opus. I think he's done both my lists. Well, it's 3 now, but you know what I mean.
I have not heard of
He's
this
done
person, no.
quests. I'm gonna send you a link later. But
Yes.
anybody listening, this is the guy you want to check out. He does really cool showcases.
I'll have to watch these. Cool.
They're
I found
really,
his
really
channel.
good. Yeah. They're
Well, this just shows me that I'm not on Webjack as much as I used to be.
Yeah, I don't see you around in the launch anymore.
I'm not in a lounge as much. I'm in Apocrypha more. I like talking about mod development and mod list developments.
Fair enough. It's less popcorn and less spicy. which is good in the modding scene nowadays. We have so much popcorn, you can really get sick of it.
Popcorn does get a little... Eating too much popcorn does get a little stale after a while.
Yeah.
Alright, well, if there's anything else to say it now, or we can just wrap it up.
I think we're going to wrap this up. I mean, if anybody made it all the way to the end here, congratulations. You have my seal of approval. We thank you both.
Mine as well.
Yeah.
I actually have a seal of approval. I'll send it to you.
Aww. It's going to be an actual seal in a box. That would be cute.
I made a seal of approval when I was Pierre Despero.
Oh, right. Yeah, you had it on your mod pages, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah,
Not anymore.
That was pretty cool.
Actually, it's still on the Mask of Dova Sovox page. Kiwi has not removed it, and I don't want her to.
It was really cool. I really like your the way you had your mod pages with the the things in which lists it was and stuff. I have to redo that for TPFX so you can put it on your mod pages. That would be really
I moved them around a bit. There is too much stuff happening at the top of the mod page, at the bottom of the mod page now, which is where you put yours, so it's all good.
Right, this is another tangent. It's horrible. This is never ending.
Terrible. just end the video. It's fine.
Okay. No, final thing I would say, if this rambling is interesting to anybody, let us know, and maybe we'll do another thing someday. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. No promises.
Yeah. No promises, but if you like it, let us know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.